Please go ahead.
Coach, what have you seen so far on Terrence?
Out of who?
Terrence.
Terrence has been good. You know, really, today was the first day that we could do 11 on 11. These guys got here a couple weeks ago. Seen a guy that's been real attentive in meetings. Got a really good feel. You know, really, it's routes on air, and then what we saw today, which is a limited body of work. But just been really impressed with him and really the rookie class as a whole. Our vets have done a good job welcoming these guys with open arms. But looking forward to seeing him just continue to take it a step at a time. Scooter Huff does a great job with our tight ends, and so far so good. Yeah, I think the first thing, Nick, I've been really impressed with his willingness to share, his openness and his refreshing humility in terms of being coached, but then being able to offer his insight. It's fun to be able to listen to, he and Matthew have a dialogue of their accumulated experiences and getting on the same page for how they want to be able to do things. But he's been great. He's had similar to what I was just saying about Terrence, but he's been great in the meetings, incredibly detail oriented. You can see how smart he is. There's a couple things that are new in terms of the vernacular, but a lot of this stuff is same as, or maybe just a couple subtle tweaks. But his ability to be able to learn, his ability to be able to listen, and then ultimately lead has been a big factor. Say that.
As far as where Devontae has experiences for the younger guys,
sure.
What specific areas?
I think there's nothing more powerful. Seen is better than said. The way he moves, but then his willingness to share. I think what's cool is these guys, the more comfortable they get, the more comfortable they'll be to be able to ask questions. I think Eric Yarber, Nate, and Rob do such a great job of creating an open dialogue. We want our meetings to be conversational, not just transferring information. But the way that he moves, what's his rhythm and routine, and then his willingness to share based on his experiences and credibility that he's earned over the years. Oh yeah, and this was months ago. He's traveling with his family. Pretty cool opportunity. Got to be able to go travel with his mom. He's getting back today. He'll be here, so he's done a great job of communicating a couple months ago. It's funny, I was just talking to him out on the field, Jordan. What I think is great is when guys put the work in and they just continue to show, I'm getting better and better, and I'm creating value, whether that's on teams or whether that's doing a great job within his role as a receiver. You can see the accumulation of experiences led to a confidence, ability to be able to fill in when needed. Thought he had a really good day today. You can see he's just got a real comfort level in terms of what's being asked, what's the intent of some of these plays, what are the route nuances, and where do I fit within these concepts. And so I've just been really proud of the progress, the maturity. But when you talk to people, even going back to his time at Texas, this is kind of who he's been. He's been all that and more with us, and today was an excellent step in the right direction.
Possibly trading for Jalen Ramsey.
Oh yeah, we would never close out those opportunities.
Can you give us an update on what the status is? I mean, there's that June 1st date that's approaching.
You and I both know that's not a real date, though.
Okay.
but no, here's what I would say. There's not a whole lot that I have to offer. There's a lot of layers with something of that magnitude when you're talking about the caliber of the player, all right, the compensation that they're looking for in return. What does that look like in terms of how they want to handle what he's actually due? Obviously, we love Jalen. We know Jalen intimately. There would be some things that we would need to be able to do if that was going to be a direction that we went. We certainly haven't closed the door on that, but there hasn't been a whole lot of dialogue as of late, in regards to some of the communication. And so we'll see if that changes, but these things can happen quickly. But it's really kind of same as what it was a couple weeks ago.
I mean, will you push?
I would say this: if there really hasn't been any meaningful, tangible dialogue as of late, but that can always change, pretty quickly, as you know.
If you can't add Jalen for whatever reason, would you want to add the secondary anyway?
No, I feel good about where we're at. Obviously Jalen's a unique deal, but I really like, and I think we all feel this way, in terms of the guys that have played. We've gotten a lot of guys that have played meaningful ball at the corner position, at the safety. We've got some different guys that can flex between safety, dime linebacker, the nickel star spot, and so I think that the way that guys will approach, similar to Jordan's question, Greg, there's a lot of young guys, or maybe even guys that maybe are new to the Rams but have accumulated a bunch of experience that I think are only going to continue to take steps. I think when you really look at it, I thought that Kobe Durant took amazing strides last year. Obviously, Keller Witherspoon played great. I think him being here in the offseason is a big deal. Darius Williams, has been an excellent player for us. I don't think anybody can minimize, that hamstring injury that he had to, work through in the early parts of the year. And then it was great to see Darian Kendrick out here, and Emmanuel Forbes made a play. So, there's a handful of guys. I saw Sean Jolly get in on a pick today. So I do feel really good about the development of that group led by Aubrey Pleasant, Chris Beek, and Mike Harris. Yeah. I was really impressed with the way that he came in. His willingness to be coached, his openness to maybe some different techniques, and that's really tough to do in the middle of the year, especially given the background of Washington. And I thought he came in with a great demeanor and disposition. Aubrey always does such a good job of being able to connect with guys. Let me connect with you first, then let me learn how we can continue to communicate, speak the same languages, and then I'll be able to slowly feed you kind of what we're trying to be able to get done in bite-sized increments, and you've just seen the progression. Today was the first step, but you can see even when he's responding to questions, what he's showing in the walkthroughs, even watching him in some full speed settings today, you see the ability, in some of the individual drills, the movements, the ability to get in and out of breaks and things like that, and then the length and the ball skills to be able to, pick the ball off. Those are big deals. I thought he did some really good stuff against Seattle in Week 18 last year, and so I'm encouraged to really use that as an evaluation. And you guys know, we try to get as many meaningful reps in these settings as possible. The closest thing to real football without playing tackle is when we can put the pads on. So there still is an understanding of, we're just trying to set foundations, but I think he's done a really good job with what he can control. Yeah, that's a really good question. I think, the first thing is who's the quarterback coach or the coordinator and what's been their rhythm and routine. And Dave Ragone, I've obviously known Dave for a while, but when you talk about a guy that has such a specific sequential process for the weekly rhythm for the quarterbacks while also having the necessary flexibility to say, all right, this is how Matthew's done it, this is how Jimmy's done it, now I'm really being able to help Stetson continue to develop a rhythm and routine. And I think what he does a great job of is he's able to really reach that person with the most experience while also accommodating to somebody that's getting familiar with it. But I think it's being able to break it up into segments similar to how we kind of implement a game plan, and then make sure you don't take anything for granted. I kind of mentioned it earlier, the conversational meetings. You can give all this information, guys kind of nod, but unless you force them to give it back to you, and then they're able to show it in jog through or some of these walkthrough settings and then in the practice. But I just think Dave does a great job, and really, have such trust in him to be able to kind of implement that with those guys.
Have conversations progressed past that point and follow up? What does it mean despite the ongoing conversation that he's out here?
Yeah, I think, first of all, Drew's been outstanding. I think the dialogue has been really healthy. And the one thing about these negotiations is trying to be able to figure out, all right, where is that line that fits kind of what everybody wants to be able to get done. And we all know how much we love Kyron. Drew's got a responsibility. I think his communication's been excellent. And Kyron has been the same stud that we know. Great demeanor, great willingness to come out here to work, to be able to get better. He's been great in terms of our communication. It means a lot, just because you don't minimize. Those things are real. And those are real things that guys have to navigate. You want to make sure that you're asking the right questions, giving them opportunities to be able to give you that feedback, and just keep the communication lines open. And hopefully we'll see where this goes. But I think it's been really healthy and positive progress.
Grind episode, we saw how
behind the grind.
We saw how invested you were in trying to go get Jarquez Hunter.
Pull out pieces of that. You never know who the hell
what did you like about him, and what have you seen from him so far?
I think when you look at it, really all 6 of our picks, we had a real appreciation for. I think that's what Les and his group, in collaboration with our coaches, did a great job is. Let's have a vision for how these guys fit. Let's play the game in terms of, all right, where do we think the rest of the league sees these guys? Jarquez was a guy, in addition to some other running backs, that we had real appreciation for. There was a vision for how he fit. We got a chance to have a Zoom meeting with him as coaches, just like this demeanor. I think when you look at the production that he had at Auburn, going against the caliber of players that he's going against, he's a guy that can hit home runs, and so there was a lot to like about him. But the other 5 guys, and really a lot of these undrafted free agents, felt the same way.
Sean, flag football is going to be part of the Olympics, and NFL players, it looks like, are going to be able to play. What's your view on flag football being part of the Olympics, and will you encourage your players to participate?
Yeah, I think it's great. I think, that is so far away from me in coaching years are dog years, that. So I think if guys, you hear Justin Jefferson come out and talk about, man, that would be really cool. Well, that's awesome. Like, I think you give guys the opportunity to say, all right, well, what's your preference on it? I think whatever our guys are, there's going to be the availability for maybe one guy on each team to be able to do that. And if that's something that players say they want to be able to do, then I think it's a really cool experience for them to be able to be a part of. While also acknowledging that, man, there's some other guys that have been doing it. I'm not going to pretend to understand the nuances tactically and what that game entails, but I think it's good. I think it's great.
And Sean, get back to the communication between Matthew and Devontae. When you consider Matthew's first season with Cooper, his first season with Puka, kind of historic in those natures, the production. What's been the most impressive thing to you in how Matthew kind of onboards quickly with these receivers and gets that chemistry so quickly?
Well, I think you just said it, Omar. It's his ability to communicate. His ability to communicate, to connect, and then he listens to understand. You get around a lot of people and they're just telling you what they want, but he's got this really great way of having real clarity on what he's looking for, but an openness and a humility to be able to listen and work in coordination. Man, that's where you inspire people to want to be able to work alongside you. And he's done that with receivers. He does that with the offensive linemen. It's really whoever, and that's why I think when you're innately thrust into a leadership position, it's why when you talk to his teammates or coaches, everybody loves this guy. I've said it and I've referenced it a couple times. I remember a few years ago, Dan Orlovsky said, he's got this great way to be one of the guys, but you also know he's the man at the same time. And that's a real fine line to be able to balance, but he does that authentically and organically with his personality. But it's just, he's got great communication and he's put in so much work to have, such a, an understanding of what it looks like to do this at a high clip. And, I just see him over there. He's getting ready to turn 50 here pretty soon, too. So I'm just kidding. Didn't see you over there, big guy.
We saw JJ Redick. What do you like about talking to coaches? I mean,
What I like, Greg, is I like the opportunity to be able to have people that are in similar platforms where you're always trying to learn and share. And even though there might be some different things specifically or tactically, there's so much crossover in leadership in the platform that we're blessed to be able to have. I got connected with JJ a little bit before he took the job and had always respected him from afar. But I mean, you talk about a well thought out guy, a great willingness to be able to look inwardly at, all right, where are those areas of improvement, understanding how you bring people together. And so really enjoyed him coming out, and I think the guys did today too. Okay, thanks guys.